Now, good evening, everybody, and in certain cases, good morning, and welcome to our third and final Fireside Chat that, of course, talks about the Marketing Institute of Ireland Global Marketing Leadership Programme, developed, of course, in partnership with Berkeley Global, Berkeley Extension, the Continuous Education Division of University College, Berkeley, of which Forbes recently announced as the #1 university in America, which is an incredible achievement when surrounded by such tough competition. My name is David Field. I'm the Chief Executive of the Marketing Institute, and I'm of course delighted to welcome you all here this evening for this final Fireside Chat. Our purpose in the Marketing Institute is quite simple. It is to educate, enable, and empower our members to become the transformational leaders of tomorrow, and in doing so, demonstrate the impact of marketing, not just on business, but on society at large. And I think this Global Marketing Leadership Programme demonstrates that intent. Over 18 months ago, I spoke to a significant number of senior marketeers and business leaders with regard to the challenges that they face in order to lead the change in their organizations around, particularly in this fast-paced digital world that is changing right in front of our eyes. And it was out of these conversations that the kernel and germ of this program effectively begun. This program was developed and is a world first and talks to the 4 essential core competencies that I believe empower marketing executives to lead digital transformation in their organizations. Those being data-driven business intelligence, and we have quite a treat in store this afternoon on that. Of course, customer-centric and technology-conscious marketing, agile strategy and leadership, and of course, organizational and change management. In our previous Fireside Chats, we have heard from Pat Reed, who spoke about the agile leadership and gave a sense of the themes that would be discussed and indeed delved into as part of the people pillar of this program. Our second Fireside Chat, you'll remember we had Maria Gianotti on the marketing pillar, who talked very much around revenue marketing and how the emerging technologies can be leveraged, not just to outpace the competitors, but to also help you become truly customer focused. This evening, we are going to discuss the business pillar of the program, and I'm delighted that we have Gauthier Vasseur with us this evening to whet the appetite, and I think he is certainly going to do that with regard to data-led business intelligence. But before I introduce you to Gauthier, I'd like to first of all introduce you again to Frederick T. Wurl, who is the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs at UC Berkeley. Frederick has been instrumental in working with myself and Jenny and the team in relation to the development of this program. Frederick is a researcher specializing in innate human behavior and an expert in academic innovation and design. At Berkeley, he is developing fully integrated transdisciplinary study programs that allow students and lifelong learners to acquire the specific skills that they need to succeed in their careers in the upcoming 4th Industrial Revolution. With his team, he brings together world-leading researchers from Berkeley and industry experts from Silicon Valley who work and teach at the forefront of academic innovation. And that academic approach is what is key to this program. Frederick, well, I'd love to hand over to you and say, well, first of all, good evening or good morning and your circumstances, your position, and maybe just give a sense of the Berkeley experience, Frederick. Good morning.
Hello, and thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here. It's a great pleasure to be here for this last Fireside Chat. It's a very exciting topic, and it's very exciting for us to work with you in launching this program together. I'm myself a marketer, so I'm absolutely passionate about this subject, and I can confirm, coming from Europe myself, how absolutely mind-blowing it is, the speed at which things are developing in our field, and to what extent it is valuable to understand and see what is being done in industry, in companies, and particularly here in Silicon Valley and in the research institutions that we have in this area. There's just practices there that are not published. They're not out there. They may be discussed in a few forums or Slack channels, but that's it. And at the same time, being able to combine this expertise of practitioners that are active in companies here on a larger platform, being able to combine it, take it out of its kind of cocoon of specialization in marketing, take it and combine it with the larger perspective of data, take it and combine it with the larger perspective of organizational change and strategy and leadership, is what we aspire to do with this program together with the experts of MII in this pretty amazing program. So in this sense, for us, it is a wonderful journey as well. And for us, it's a wonderful opportunity to find another way and have developed another way to make change. And that is basically the essence of Berkeley. It's a place made by change makers for change makers. It's for people that are not happy with the way things are going currently and that just band together and come together and figure it out in a way that challenges the environment, challenges the way things are going. And that's why we are able to push the frontier in many ways. And that's despite being a public institution, meaning that we're not an institution where we're out for revenue and profit. We're an institution where we're out for making change and making a difference. So it's a great opportunity for us to welcome experts and professionals from Ireland. And it's a wonderful opportunity for us to work with the experts from MII, with you, David and Jenny, to make this happen.
Great, thank you, Frederick, and I love that idea of a place for change makers made by change makers. I love that. And listen, to our keynote for this evening's Fireside Chat, I am delighted to be joined by Gauthier Vasseur. As I said, I hope I'm getting your pronunciation of your surname right, Gauthier. But Gauthier is a data analytics and digital transformation expert. His executive track record spans from large enterprises such as Google, Oracle, Hyperion, to bootstrap Series A and pre-IPO companies. Gauthier has worked in finance, operations, and marketing, building teams and analytics and scalable processes to fasten growth and improve transparency. He has brought his multifaceted experiences and emphasis on data analytics into higher education. And over the last 6 years over 6 years of experience teaching and training teams to drive efficient and data-driven processes, make the best of technology, and become key actors of digital transformation in their organizations. And that is what we are here to do, certainly the participants of this program. At the Fisher Center of Business Analytics, Gauthier is spearheading efforts to connect the Haas faculty with business leaders to collaborate on the application of data science and analytics to business strategy. To engage with confidence, business professionals need to understand how AI can work for them. And really, I think that's what we're in store for this evening. And Gauthier is really going to give us a flavour and, as I keep on saying, whet the appetite for potential participants of what this programme is going to do. And when we talk of digital transformation, Gauthier, I think we're in good company talking to yourself. So good evening.
Yes, well, thank you so much, David. Thank you so much to the Berkeley Global team. It's a thrill to be here and to get an opportunity to share my passion and my expertise around data to you guys and marketing executive, marketing players that just want to stretch their marketing a bit further, maybe leveraging data, business analytics, or AI. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I want to show you what you could learn, what you will learn as you join this program. I'm going to cover the different pillars of the curriculum, showing you how, as David said earlier, you can be, you can gain education, you can gain enablement and empowerment with data to perform better in marketing. So I have prepared a few slides, and then I hope this will be conversational. I'm always eager to get questions from the left and from the right. That's what makes these sessions really fascinating. Excellent. So the topic today is look at the different elements we will talk about during this curriculum, and to see how they can have a direct influence on the quality, the performance, and the sustainability of your marketing. And of course, we're going to focus on business analytics and AI. So I'd love to start this session with something I always do, is in a very Californian way, telling you how amazing you are. Because here in California, unlike Europe, we get crazy, we get super excited when we meet people for the first time. We clap our hands, we jump like this with our little fists in the air and say, "Oh my gosh, you're awesome, yay!" But actually, as you could see, I'm European, I sound European, my accent is still there. And when I say these things, I actually mean them. And I mean them because you guys today are making a difference. you're making that time, you're taking that time, that 1 hour out of your busy schedule to say, you know what, I want to see what it's really about data here. And you're standing apart from a majority of people still that just talk about data, that talk about digital and AI, but that just don't want to do it and learn about it, and that just stay like talking about the buzz and reading articles here and there. So just for that matter, because you're here today, because you will hopefully join us on that class, you are making a difference between the ones that talk about data and the ones that actually are going to work and do things with data. So what's on the program today? So, well, we're going to go pretty fast because I really want to show you all the different facets of this curriculum. So we're going to stay pretty much, at high level, unless you drag me down with some questions, which I love that, which I love too. But we're going to, a few more things about myself that could be relevant for this class. But then we're going to look at, how data plays, why we're here to talk about data to begin with. Why is it so necessary for marketing? Because there may be some reasons that you hadn't thought about. Then we're going to talk about how you start with the right question, some of the fundamentals about fair and fluid data. Of course, we have to talk a bit about technology. I mean, we're marketing people, but come on, technology is going to help us to be better. I would not leave you without some AI and visualization opportunities that are not that far, that are really at hand when you know how to handle data. And we're going to see that this will work even better if you adjust your leadership and your way of thinking around your problems. I'll keep for the end the 7th element, which is, well, that's going to be a surprise. All right. So I was introduced about, what I did in the past. So I really come from operations. I actually run marketing in several companies such as Hyperion and Oracle. But I've been in the trenches before doing data. And I think that's what you're going to see throughout this session is I've really applied data to real business problems. And I've seen the ugly and the beautiful part of it. And that's what I'm here to share with you. 2 things that were not mentioned. I have to do this. I just finished my first book. Well, it's in French. So for those of you who speak the language of Molière, it's a great book to get started in data. It pretty much covers everything you need to know, all the techniques, the key moves that you need to understand to feel comfortable. So it should be soon translated in English, but that's going to be 2022. The other thing is part of my commitments, and I really wanted to say that, I do believe that diversity, inclusion is key in data. And with a little smirk, I would say not because it's good, but because it's necessary. And that's why I work at the, actually I founded, and I'm the co-president of the Alliance for Inclusive AI at Berkeley, which is a foundation that supports women and minorities and communities that don't have access to good data training. And for that matter, I work with Berkeley Global to offer for absolutely free is high quality training to people who just can't get them. All right. So are you guys ready? Any questions so far about my life, my past, my future?
I think we're ready to go, Gauthier.
Excellent. Okay. So first, I'd love to set the stage with something that is actually critical, is why are we here to be eager to learn about data? And the reason why I want to put an emphasis to begin with on this is that a lot of people say, oh, we need to be digital, we need to be, we need to do data. But when you scratch the surface and you say, why do we really need to be data driven? It's not that clear. And of course, it's kind of like, yeah, I kind of know, but it's not clear enough. And the problem is, when you get started in data, when you start iterating on projects, you will see that it can get hard easily. It can get not fun easily. And this is where you need to remember that this is important. This is, you need to stay attuned to it because it really matters. And if in the back of your mind, data is only a matter of being cool, of following the buzz, this is where you will give up and you will turn to other things. So this first part, I love to really anchor the fact that we have no choice. And you're going to see that it's not about data, it's way deeper than this. So The reason why we need to do data is anchored in something very strategic for every single company, big or startup. I'm gonna run through a few open doors here because it's kind of stating the obvious. We live in a crazy world where all the paces, everything is accelerating and becoming more and more dramatic. I mean, wars, terrorist attacks, pandemics, climate change, stock market crash. This happens more frequently. We had to manage this COVID crisis. When I was at Google, my CFO first #1 goal was keep your execs out of jail because there were so many legal risks. The problem was not the money, was more not ending up in jail in case of wrongdoing. Cybersecurity risks can literally hurt your company like overnight. And of course, ethical regulations, all the GDPR type of things could hurt you very badly. So you can have a wonderful idea, a great product, the best service. If you mess it up, you could be dragged down really quickly. On top of that, the pace of disruptions is so fast that you don't have to look so far away. Look at these large companies that were dominating the world, like literally dominating the world, and that kind of nowhere to be found today. So why is that taking us to the importance of data today? Because you're going to say, okay, this is pretty obvious. Yes, you're right. 2 slides. The first one is, what do you need to do to survive today? And it's not data. You don't need to do data. You don't even need to be digital. That's not the primary focus. Here, your focus must be on innovation, being agile to overcome and dodge and adjust all the time, to be creative in the way you're going to take on new problems and challenges, more creative than the other guys, actually. And of course, collaborate, because you realize that problems today are so complex, so diverse, so global, that they need a holistic view to be handled properly. And that takes us right into data. Why that? Because it doesn't look very digital to me, right? Innovation, agility, and all that's pretty obvious. Well, the problem is that you cannot dictate that in your own organization. Within your marketing team, you cannot go one morning and tell your staff, say, guys, I want you, guys, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, you need to be creative today. And you need to innovate. You have 2 hours to innovate, brainstorm innovation. It doesn't work this way. You cannot dictate all these things that are obvious, right? But they just don't happen because you ordered them. They happen when you foster them sustainably. And this is why you absolutely need to put data under control, because data is going to bring you the 2 things that absolutely matter to reach innovation, creativity, collaboration, agility. These 2 things are visibility and time. Visibility, you know it already. That's kind of obvious. That's the insight from data. But you realize that even the best idea, even the best kung fu move of agility in facing a big event is meaningless, is moot, if you don't know where you are, where you come from, or where you should be going to. And this is what data brings to you right away. But the second advantage that people tend to forget about data is the time gains. Properly managed data, controlled data will offer you tremendous amounts of free time. It's amazing how many hours per day, hours per week you can save. And this is the conclusion of this first part. If you have time on your hand, and if you have perfect, clear insight, holistic insight on a problem, you guys are ready to stand back and start to think and start to innovate, be creative, collaborate. And that's how you survive digital Darwinism today.
Do you mind me asking, Gauthier, if it's so simple, but yet it seems so hard, what is it that ultimately is that game changer in organizations? Because people are, yourself, you hear people talk about data in organizations. I'm sure you've come across it. You were only telling me about, I think it was Abbott, you were working with the senior management team in Abbott recently, digital and data analytics. What is it that's in people's minds that they find difficult to kind of get their head around this?
Yeah, well, David, you hit it on the nail here. All this is actually, it's sort of a dual situation. It's pretty easy, but 80% of the time it fails. So why is it easy? Yeah, why is it easy? Well, that's actually the purpose of the class. Technology that supports data is not hard to understand. Data management is not that difficult. Looking at the right problems, it's on us. We have to think hard and collectively, and we can get there. The problem is achieving everything at the same time together. Mastering technology, data, the leadership, the people part of things, and the lean process design that wraps it up. That's right, wraps it all up. That's where the issue is. And at the end of the day, technology and data can be mastered by taking this class. Leadership can be supported, can be helped by taking this class. But the issue at the end of the day is going to be ourselves. Are we willing to change the way we work? Are we willing to open up to new ways of management? And that's usually what makes it hard, because the changes asked by a data-driven culture are dramatic compared to a former culture.
Sorry, I didn't mean to stop your flow. Apologies. I just wanted to ask that.
No, absolutely. But I think that's at this stage that's important. That's really what this class is all about. Is indeed it is going to be hard. And actually, one of the last thing we sort of debunk or solve with this curriculum is that people never learned how to do data properly. I mean, all we got in most companies is like, okay, we know how to do Excel, and that's about it. And the newer generation come and they have some cool languages like Python, but at the end of the day, nobody ever learned how data really works. And it's not because it's super complex, it's just because it's forgotten. Either we stick to the good old habits on Excel or spreadsheets, or we move on to the super shiny stuff that are AI or advanced visualizations, but we forget the essential that is in the middle. The good news is, while it's forgotten, it can be caught up, and it can be learned in 12, 15 hours. And that's what we focus on. Bridge that gap so that leaders and operations folks can actually start understanding really what they're doing, and indeed turn to more advanced analytics later on, such as AI and advanced visualization.
Brilliant. Okay.
So if we look at data in that case, we could wonder if it's like, okay, we get it. It's an empowerment to be successful. It's not actually, data is not interesting per se. It's even more the case when we look at the way data fits into your marketing decision making process. And this is actually a very central diagram that will help you understand how and where to position data, and understand that it has an important place, but it's not what's really at stake there. Every day, actually, it's not only in marketing, it's everywhere in the company. Every day you face challenges, you have questions, and you realize that you need to make decisions about them. The faster you can do this, the better you can do this, the better off you are. If it takes you 3 months to get from a question to a decision, believe me, competitors are going to get there way faster and earlier than you. But the thing is, going from a question to a decision fast actually is important because of what? Well, of course, making a fast decision, but also maximizing the time you have up here. That is, act, implement, actually do stuff. Because the company is not going to be run and successful with analytics. It's actually successful because it is achieving stuff. It's all about execution. That's not, not that I'm a super huge fan of Steve Jobs, but if you read his biography, he used to say, real artists ship. Well, that's all, that's all what business is about. It's about implementation and action. So now you start seeing the equation. We have questions we make. We need to make decisions super fast so that we can focus on implementation and action. And here I am, kind of shooting this curriculum in the foot, saying, well, data is like the last part of it, right? Data is the last thing we should focus on. Or actually, I should say, let's focus on data today so that we make that part super fast and super lean, so that we can forget about it and refocus on what really matters. So it's literally sort of make data a no problem to put our eyes on what is important. And that's all about this, this curriculum. And that's what we're going to touch upon in this hour today. Okay, the last element, so positioning data that way and understanding that we have no choice because we need that time and insight to survive. The last element is that data is actually a four-faceted element. It's always about technology and data and processes and humans. And to your point earlier, David, that's what makes it somewhat hard, because going technology when we are more of a leader is taking ourselves outside of comfort zone. Same thing, I'm a geek with data and now I need to talk to people. I'm not going to feel comfortable with this. But that's also the beauty. That's why I teach data. It's because I think we all have our strong suits, but also we have an opportunity to go after the things we're not that comfortable with. And isn't that the essence of learning, of a lifelong learning journey? That's, I think, what makes that discipline so fascinating and fulfilling.
And I think that's a big challenge for the marketeers in general is, I suppose it's become such a fragmented type of profession because of the explosion of data and things like that. And I think a lot of, I suppose, senior marketing professionals are probably, are challenged with trying to simplify that data to your point, get to that efficient decision making. So what you're saying is actually the program will allow you think about how you can actually make sure that it becomes almost like the bedrock, a very simple kind of, a tool that is set up, and then actually it's about how you then start to utilize it to make those quick decisions.
Exactly. And at the end, once you know your basics and once you have your bearing, you realize, and I really guarantee that you realize that it is not, none of this is rocket science. And I don't want to undermine my domain, but for business people, this is something that is really at hand. I think the biggest effort is, are you willing to go beyond your comfort zone?
And ultimately then bring your organization out of their comfort zone.
Exactly. And that's why you need to set the example. And also that's discussion I have most of the time with leaders. They say, oh yeah, but I'm a leader, maybe I should not learn all this stuff. Well, I say, you're going to ask every single one of your people to learn this. And your statement, your positioning is like, this is not for me. No, I'm not asking you to be a pro at every single domain here, but you got to know a little bit to set the example. That makes a whole difference. All the more, and we're anticipating a little bit about some parts we're going to see later on, is you cannot lead a team if you don't know how they could work with data. And a short example for everyone, even as a leader of marketing, and I'm going to be very blunt here, I see leaders in marketing or in finance, they say, oh yeah, my folks are working great, and to do this, yeah, well, it takes a few days, but that's fine, I get the results. What they don't know and what they should know by taking such a class is that taking 2 days with 2 people is unacceptable. That should take 2 minutes and know people. That's what you should expect. And because you're a leader that don't want to get trained on this technique, you just blow 2 days of work in your team per month or per week. And that is where I think new leaders should know what their teams could be empowered to do with data, not for them to do it themselves as leaders, but to know what to expect or to push for. I think
that's really interesting, Gauthier, because I think one of the challenges is people talk about digital transformation, and it's I even say it myself, digital transformation, and it makes it sound like, oh, well, that's straightforward enough. But actually, it is really about, you've given that perfect example. 2 days work by 2 people should be, 2 minutes work, not, with no people. That's true digital transformation, because then actually all your human resources are focused on driving the change, making the informed decisions, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly, David. And I'm so glad actually so early on we touch about these things. Is I had actually a professional like you in the audience today, and I trained them. They followed a very similar curriculum, and at the end, like 2 months after, that gentleman called me up and said, Gauthier, I need to tell you, we had processes that would take 12 hours per month, 12 hours per month. And he said, because I learned a bit about the technology and data management techniques and better organization of the process, we are now down to 2 hours a month.
Wow.
And this is a story from a few months ago. And he said, we have 4 processes that are killing us every month that are going to be taken from 12 to 2 hours. So that's almost 40 hours a month. Now, my joke was like, oh my gosh, but aren't they going to fire you now? And he laughed. And this is where I want everybody to feel comfortable. He said, well, absolutely, of course not, Gauthier. He said, we were so short of doing the right things. We could not fulfill our missions with value, with innovation, with creativity. We were so behind the curve all the time. So finally, because we're now saving up to 30, 40 hours a month, now we're going to start finally doing the job we should have done a long time ago.
Brilliant. Great. And that's a similar sort of journey that the participants of this program are going to go on. That's fascinating. Okay.
As you can see, we've been talking a lot about humans and behaviors. And that's going to be a recurring theme of today's session and the class. It's actually the hardest part and the most important part of data. And I get the chance to work with some of really the world's best artificial intelligence experts at Berkeley. And I really love this because I talk to them and they're so up there, but they will always tell you right into your eyes and say, people, human part of data is the most essential. There's no negotiation. You are still key, but we need to do some homework. And off we go doing a little bit of homework today. First of all, when you start doing data, well, it starts again with a very human type of element. You don't start analytics in marketing without a business question. That's something we always fall for. Oh my gosh, let's get tons of information about our clients, about our markets, about products. Let's churn as much as we can some data. Well, this is moot. And even in research, with the most brilliant researchers we have here at Berkeley, if you don't know what you're looking for, if there's no business problem you're trying to solve, just don't do it. And that's where leadership starts, is to tell your team, to tell yourself, what is the most important direction or point we must be looking at. And there's no such thing as let's do a big data project. That's the kind of my recurring joke when I work with marketing or finance teams or HR teams. I say, go back to your budget and scratch that line where it says big data project. There's no such thing as a big data project. All there is are big question projects. And that's where you should start. And this is where you're going to see it takes courage, it takes creativity to say, what is the next big thing we need to go after? And then, only then, let's go get the data that's going to be meaningful. So once you have that first point, and we will elaborate during the class on how to ask the right business question, how to go deeper. We're going to learn some techniques to get there. Then you're going to say, okay, fair enough. I can do that homework, but how do I get the data to answer my question then? And here, actually, the thing is, acquiring the data is not that hard. You will see that technologies are here to help. It's not the biggest deal. If you have a little bit of a checkbook, if you have a lot of data, you can always rent or buy technologies and solutions that can get a lot of data. But what matters the most is, will your data remain fluid and fair? What matters the most is, will you be able to sustainably consume your data properly, or not end up in that type of situation where you indeed get a lot of data left and right, but the more data you get, the more time you waste trying to harness it. And that's something you will need to build as a marketeer, is to build supply chains of data that keep data fluid. And I know that's kind of going a few steps backwards. You say, oh, I want to get my insight. You're right. But getting insight once, realizing that you cannot get it twice because it's too hard, is moot. You got to think about the sustainability of being able to build that insight. And that goes with fluid data. And fluid data is making sure your data is available, can be efficiently accessed, efficiently processed. Oh my gosh, if it takes 1 day in Excel to reprocess your campaign, what's going on here? And of course, it has to be sustainable, accurate, and timely. That's what we call in research, and there are great papers about that. I mean, it's very straightforward. It's fair data, findable, accessible, interoperable. You know, it's one thing to get a lot of data. If it's only your Excel spreadsheet that can read it, then you know you can see the limitations. And of course, reusable, same thing. I'm sorry, I keep on banging on spreadsheets, but your spreadsheet, if you give it to me, how long will it take me to decode it and make it useful for myself? I'm going to have to tear it apart to finally get the data I want and then build my own monster spreadsheets. Clearly, we're not into a fair framework here, and that will bite you in terms of time wasted and complexity. So what we learn in this class is how to work with how to build these fair supply chains. And actually, there is one simple takeaway that I will give you for today is whatever data you capture, whether it comes from your transactional systems, your marketing tracking systems, your CRM, or some third party that are doing studies for you from a marketing standpoint, market studies, for instance, always think tables. Always request tables that are simple as that. It's all about having columns with a first line which says that's the header of the column, that's the content, and where each line is the record of what you want to analyze. Forget everything else. Anytime you request data, anytime somebody needs to give you data or you pass on data to someone, push it via a table. And then the person will apply their own analysis, which won't be biased by what you would have done in an Excel spreadsheet, because the more you customize your data, the more bias you put in there. If you pass on a table to someone or receive a table, well, a few seconds after, you can build all these charts and graphics and analysis. Because with fluid and fair data, any analytics tools have a blast at visualizing or analyzing the data. All this was generated from simple data tables, some of them up to 1 million rows, some of them up to 10 million rows, and they were all generated in a matter of minutes. So that's the first takeaway about how do you get that data. We'll learn in the class how technology can help you there, but the dogma is table. Now I want to tell you about, we talked about fairness of data. Once you have a table, you need to take care about one last thing, is that data needs to flow through a pipeline. And that has to be, if not your responsibility, well, maybe, it has to be under your supervision. And that's actually the discussion I had with one executive committee member of a very large French bank yesterday. Actually, by the way, that's the luxury of that I have, and that's why I keep on teaching, is that every day I'm talking to executives like you from such a broad background, and their stories, their questions, the classes I give to them enrich every day what I can share the next day with an audience like yours. And yesterday that woman was absolutely amazing, and her worries was like, she felt she was not understood when she said, I'm happy to do all that type of marketing things to help my clients and work on the customer journey, whatever. But she said, the problem is, and I'm sorry to be a party pooper, our data pipelines are not ready. So we fixed that part of the problem, but we're missing all the data supply. And actually we're missing also all the delivery of the execution. So we can please ourselves with a cool POC in the middle, but we don't have what we have like in the oil industry. We might be having a nice station here, but we forget that we need to have the extraction, the transportation, the refinement, and maybe here customers that say, oh yeah, I can use what you're giving to me for a lot of applications. Her problem was saying she couldn't get her company and the teams around her to understand that they had to work hand in hand.
So this supply chain, Gauthier, you've referred to it a couple of times. The supply chain, like that's what data is about, really, isn't it? You know, it's end-to-end supply chain, and that's what you need to get to grips with. And I suppose it's that journey the participants will go on, is understanding. Well, first of all, it's A to Z of, you know, it's the full spectrum of here's your supply chain. Now, when you get it to your point, yes, you can produce the data in the charts and everything else like that. But ultimately, once you know your supply chain data, actually, then it's actually understanding, well, now how can it change your business, transform your business, change and answer those burning business questions you've spoken about. Because we've all had those situations where you're talking to, I remember a former colleague of mine, and I'm annoyed now having listened to you, because I should have just kept on saying, what is the business question or challenge you are trying to address? Because I ended up going into the minutiae of data to ultimately come up the other end and never having satisfied ultimately what he was looking for, because he couldn't actually articulate what he was looking for, which was the challenge, I guess. Yeah, exactly. And see, just an example that comes to my mind, I worked with the marketing team, and they were spending like literally a week trying to make sense of data that they had paid for, coming from a marketing agency. That was expensive surveys. And I looked at the work they were doing, and they were taking data training. And well, they were spending like an entire week, several people trying to repurpose, reorganize, rescale the data that came from this marketing agency. And the marketing agency had given them like just an ugly spreadsheet, structured like all over the place. And they were paying good money for that. I mean, that was like, you're talking about a 5-figure amount monthly for this. But they were getting a very rubbish data in spreadsheets. And then it took a lot of time to recycle the spreadsheet and make it say something. So many cycles had gone like this. And when I trained this team, I said, well, you know, they started with a simple thing. Well, we need to work from tables first. We turn to the marketing agency and say, you need to stop this. We need clean, fair data. We need tables. Oh, we don't know how to do this. Well, we pay you folks. We can go see somewhere else if you're not happy. So they ended up providing clean tables. We suppressed the entire Excel weak process. We put a simple analytic solution, and bam, that was it. And nobody in the marketing team had seen that. And that's what I want to change. You in the audience will be the leaders, will be the people operating in marketing. You need to know that there is a better way of doing things. And you need to push with your supplier or the people who expect the results. You need to push for a lean supply chain of data. Because on the other end of the spectrum, if the person who says, I want to read the results of these marketing campaigns, and the person expects a super complex, circumvoluted, heavily cosmetized Excel spreadsheet, then it's back to square one, because you might avoid the spreadsheet nightmare with the supplier of data, but you will have to build a spreadsheet nightmare for your internal consumer. And well, you need to fight that. You need to say, guys, no, we need to streamline that whole process. And we need to adopt best practices, all of us. Otherwise, we just ruin the whole chain. Very good. I'm conscious of time, Gauthier, so I better stop asking you questions and let you get through your content. Don't worry, actually, we're really good on time. This is good. No, we're perfectly fine on time. So now that we understand that data as a material has to be fair and fluid, and actually this table structure is absolutely key as a media, we're going to take a quick look at the technology. And the problem with technology, I love quoting this YouTuber who does also some cool videos on TikTok. His name is Voltaire, and he says that every science, every study has its unintelligible jargon, which seems to be invented only to defend its approaches. By the way, that quote in the US works because people say, oh, Voltaire, let me check him out on TikTok. I think in Europe that doesn't fly, right? But that's really about technology. And what we learn in this class is what are the different technology components that can take us to that level of efficiency. We realize that, we learn that technology, it's no magic. It's not to keep up with the Joneses. It is just to do things faster, better, leaner, more sustainable. That's it. These are tools, the same tools we use when we cook, when we do mechanics on the car, or where we garden.
What's at stake here? And you already had a flavor about what the type of gains you can get by putting the right tools in the right place. I mean, you can easily shave off 90% of process time compared to manual Excel-driven tasks. Yeah, 90%. And that's on many processes, that's a low-hanging fruit. And the purpose is not, yeah, we're doing data. The purpose is now we got 90% of time savings that we can reinvest into visiting markets, meeting clients, and actually think about the real problems. And the beauty is the tech stack, as we call it, is not that complex. We're not going to go into detail, of course, in this fireside chat, but look, it is as obvious as this. We have a lot of data that is produced every day by partners, transactional systems here. The technology stack we're going to rely on to accelerate our processes is one, we're going to use a pump, a data pump. That's called that's part of something we call middleware. It's a bit of jargon, but come on, you need to know that term. We're going to use a data pump that can take data from here to here. It's going to end up in a database. The database is our library, our bookstore, where we get all our data neatly organized. Once it is there, well, we're going to use our specific tools to go and see the books we have and sort of collect them and put them together so that we get to a report that's going to lead to an action. And that's it. Technology stack for what matters to us in marketing is that we're going to have to make sure that we have these data pumps, this data storage, these analytic tools. And when it comes to marketing, well, it's more our ability to communicate, but aren't we good at that when we do marketing? What we need to remember is everything here is technology, right? But it's only there to accelerate the time between question and decision so that we can focus more on actions. So the thing is, what happens when you don't have these tools? Because you could say, okay, we can do this. Well, that's what we discussed earlier. We spend our times copy pasting away and not doing marketing. So what we learn in this class, using your private analytics cloud that is set for you at Berkeley. We have our private cloud to teach you analytics. So you're going to have your whole platform. Is we're going to have you start small and iterate with marketing data. We're going to have you fail fast so that you learn the good, the bad, and the ugly, but also the most beautiful things you can do. And we will have you get the hang of it. And all these reflexes you need to have saying, okay, I have a question, I need an answer, give me some tables, I'm going to run analytics thanks to the tools we just talked about. All right, I told you we were going to talk about data science. Data science is actually something that is not that far away for common applications in marketing. There was a time we talked a lot about volume, velocity, and variety. Well, what we need to focus on, the real grail, is variety. Volume and velocity, that's the easy piece. You cut a check, you get big appliances, get big pipes, data will flow fast and big. The problem is for you to build that holistic view of your clients, your market, and your products. And that's where data comes in handy, because if you know how to build these clean tables and to join them together, you will get these 360 views. The problem is, what used to be simple, most of you weren't born, but when I started, the model was very simple. It was this in the core. Today, if you really want to understand a market, you get tons of data flowing in. And this is where you need AI, because AI is going to be this augmented intelligence that's going to help you see the signal in that increased noise of data. That's what Ginny Rometty mentions, quotes as augmented intelligence instead of artificial intelligence, which, by the way, repositions human beings at the center of everything. And guys, I wanted to whet your appetite here, because you will learn how to run machine learning algorithm on marketing data. And I will show you how you can do these three key things in machine learning. That is either predict a number, predict a class, or identify a group. And you might say, oh, wow, that looks complex. Let me show you. Well, regressions will help you predict a number. And in marketing, that could be interesting to predict like a customer spending or the value of a good. You want to predict the value of a car, a real estate element. Regressions will help you there. You want to predict also a color of a lipstick. A regression will help you also predict which type of red will be in tune with which type of skin. Well, at the end of the day, what you want to predict here, I'm going to take that second example, is you say, well, here that's a third example. You want to say, I want to predict the real price or the real expense that people are going to spend. And this is the sample I'm testing it with. And algorithms are going to be able to be pretty accurate, saying, yep, we can actually predict pretty well the price a person is going to pay according to age, social background, urban or not. And that's what regression will do. Awesome. So you will do this. And I'm keeping an eye on time, David, don't worry. We're almost there. You're going to learn how to do classifications. Classifications are amazing because this is what will help you tell whether a customer is going to leave you or not, whether a consumer is going to click or not, buy or not. It's going to predict classes in which a customer in that case will fall into. And same thing, you're going to load it up. You're going to train the machine with tons of customer examples with different features and attributes. The machine's going to learn depending on what they did in the past. And that will allow you to take any new client and say, that's what they're likely to do. And last but not least, this is what I love too. You're going to learn how to do clustering. Clustering, that means you take a bunch of transactions or a bunch of products or a bunch of clients, and the computer is going to help you see groups that are homogeneous, that will empower you to target your marketing, not to everyone, not to every single individual, but to target it to classes, clusters of clients that make sense. And in 3Ds, that's how you could look at your market, your clients when they are clustered. So I would love to finish on two things. As you could see, a lot of things are human-driven. And the problem with being human is that we are rarely predictable. So a few things. You need to be prepared to avoid all this buzz stuff you hear and read on LinkedIn and other magazines. A lot of people surf on the buzz, but that leads to failure. This cool saying, oh, I want a dashboard, let's be digital, let's be 2.0, is moot. I mean, this was 10 years ago. Now we actually need to get the job done. And as leaders, we need to know, maybe if not fully how it's done, not fully do it, at least know how it's done. The big issue too is going to be change. Through this session, some of us might have been like, whoa, what is he talking about? I'm a marketing pro. I'm shocked. No, actually, I'm in denial. I'm going to keep things like they are. What? But the guy actually seems to know what he's talking about. I'm going to be pissed. I'm going to be angry. And maybe some of us have gone like, yeah, maybe no, he's right. I want to take this class. Yeah, let's be engaged and let's register.
So question to you, Gauthier, that's come up here from Kieran. Hi, good evening, Kieran. He's just talking about, I suppose, with any major change, it's about understanding our business that goes beyond sometimes our own departments, requires openness and change from the business functions. As a small business performing well in the long term, there's a reluctance sometimes to break the mold, which is very understandable, and therefore to make those meaningful changes. There's a constant jostling that happens, reprioritization that happens, that's either forced or unforced. And I suppose the question really coming is will this program help the participant, I suppose, convince and educate on the importance of good data and moving it into the business as a priority and ultimately a driver for change and a driver for business performance?
Yeah, and actually, I think that's what I like about this curriculum. That's how it was designed. It's one, to be an empowered actor, but also to be an empowered influencer. Because even though you may not be the ones with your hands in the grease, you won't pursue people to do that jump to this whole new world if they don't trust you for knowing what it's all about, if they know that you don't know anything about it, you need to show that well, you're an ambassador that can articulate the problems correctly, and that has at least very good notion on how it should be done.
And that's why I suppose the makeup of this program, there's the leadership part of it, there's the marketing part of it, and there's the business part of it. And we're talking this evening about the business part, but ultimately it's about influencing people as well. But if you become the subject matter expert and actually can bring that clean, fluid data approach to your organization, that's going to be a significant change. And I suppose that's what this program is going to help you, certainly facilitate you on that journey of delivering that.
Yes, and I invite you to think about this metaphor. That's actually something where so many companies, I would say, failed. We have an expression here in the US that says it's not the tail that wags the dog, it's the dog that wags the tail. And well, at some point, you could be the tail, or your data science team could be the tail trying to wag and say, let's do data. But nothing will happen if your people are not into that boat. And how can they be in that boat? Well, you have to set the example. You have to know what to expect from them. You have to be an ambassador of good practice. You have to give them time to breathe and iterate and fail and try things out. And of course, down the road, you need to also know that they're going to need training. Like you are being trained, they're going to need training because chances are they didn't learn everything at school. And then you get the dog wagging the tail. And this is where, when you get like this intelligence of the swarm, instead of having 20 people doing Excel every day in your marketing team, you have 20 people that say, boss, let's take the afternoon and really think hard about how we're going to pin the competition. Wow, half a day, that could be time wasted. No, that's what you need today to be creative. That's actually, these are the creative mechanisms that happen here in Silicon Valley. We really force ourselves to take the time to think differently about problems. And that's how we find great solutions.
Brilliant, brilliant. So I think that's really going to be the journey for participants in this is understanding ultimately how to bring this type of information, this type of insight into their organization and drive that change. And I think the tools will be there. And I suppose how you approach it and how you bring those senior people sometimes and your peers on that journey.
Yes. And I'd love to finish on one thing. That's going to be very short. At the end of the day, data will make you greater marketeers, not because of data itself, but because of what you're going to do with that time and insight. So it's not all on data, it's actually all on you, and everything you dream of doing, all these ambitions you have, data is going to be a mean to that end. So becoming an innovator with time and insight, wow, now is the time with data. The other thing is what I enjoy, and this is actually the best news about this, is I never enjoyed my job that much when I felt empowered, when my team was empowered to understand where we were and where we were going to. And we knew we had time. We were not stressed. We were not spending our weekends, our nights working. We've never been so fulfilled and happy and inspired about our job. That's really one of the promises of this class. See, it has nothing to do with data. And the last thing, it's actually a responsibility I will put on you too, is you will see the power of analysis. You will see the power of AI. You will experience this firsthand on your private analytic cloud that we will make available to you guys. But you will see also that you are the first line of defense for abuses, for ethics, because GDPR and all the new regulations for privacy, they only came they always came late in the process. And it's really on you to be the first line to say, well, you know what? We're not going to do this because it's unethical. We're not going to do this because it opens too many risks. So with your great powers learned in this class will come these great responsibilities, that is responsibilities to do good with your marketing data. Brilliant.
Fantastic, Gauthier. Thank you so much. A real insight, and we're a little bit over the hour. So I knew before we started that there was going to be a natural kind of conversation. Frederick, I don't know if you want to comment and come in just before we close out on things.
I would just say thank you so much, Gauthier. This was very exciting and very interesting, and I think you really brought it home, the message of, I think everybody feels much more comfortable already with the idea of data. And I'm very much looking forward to the program and seeing that unfold and seeing how people can actually make change very quickly in their companies.
I think, yeah, to the idea of getting that opportunity for regression, classification, clustering, using that kind of machine learning approach and everything else, I think will really make it very tangible to people as well. And I think that's going to be one of the real benefits of this program for anybody participating in it. Gauthier, what can I say? Thank you so much. Really looking forward to journey ahead, I have to say, with yourself. And of course, Pat, and of course, Maria and all the team in Berkeley, led by, of course, Frederick and Nadej and Christina as well. So what can I say? But thank you to you this evening, Gauthier, or good morning. You have a full day ahead of you. We're wrapping up our day. To anybody who's been participating, needless to say, if you have any questions in relation to the program, reach out to myself or, of course, Jenny Bishop, who's our head of learning solutions in the Marketing Institute, and we'll hopefully be able to answer all of your questions. And if you have anything else that you want to put to us, we're happy to do it. And look, we're at that point where we're just closing up over the next couple of weeks on participants. So if anybody does have any questions, reach out. Gauthier, thank you so much, and really appreciate your time this evening.
Well, thank you, everyone. And for the audience, I really look forward to seeing you. This is just, I mean, this is a great program. I hope you'll enjoy it.
Great. Thank you, Cody. Thanks, Frederick.
Thank you.